Hey guys, how you doing? I'm Matt Gear and this is Matt Gear TV. This is the first video that I've put up for quite some time. Life has been busy and interesting for a couple of years. But for those of you who have subscribed to my channel and are still subscribed, thank you very much. The purpose of the video today is not really an in-depth lesson per se, but there's been a number of comments and questions on some of the videos that I've done previously about modes. So what I wanted to do is put a quick sort of Q&A session together, which this is, hopefully there will be some A's, really to address some of those questions that have come up on those videos about modes. So without further ado, here we go. So the first point that I wanted to raise is that modes are sounds. Okay, we've talked a lot about shapes. You know, all the videos that I've done so far have been about shapes. You know, Ionian shape, Dorian shape, so on and so forth. But really, that's sort of step one in terms of learning the modes, because the aim was, from my point of view, you know, there's a couple of different ways to look at modes. And the approach that I've taken so far is to show the shapes so that you can get stuff under your fingers. And once you've done that, then you can move into other stuff. But the main thing is that modes are about sounds, so that when we say Dorian, for example, there is a particular sound that is associated with that. And the same holds true for all of music, really. You know, we create a language around music to talk about it, because otherwise, you know, it's just noises. We need to be able to communicate that stuff. So when we say Dorian, there is a particular sound. When we say major, when we say Phrygian, Ionian, you know, all that sort of stuff. So that was sort of the first point, and it's sort of, it might sound like a subtle point, but it's really worth understanding, because the shapes are only there to communicate the sound that creates the mode. Okay, so that, you know, the sound is the main thing that we're aiming for. So don't get too tied up in what shape. Clearly there is a shape that is appropriate to do a particular task, but modes are sounds. Another way to sort of think about that is that each of the modes has a particular personality to it. And what I mean by that is it has a sound that differentiates it from the other modes, because otherwise it will be the same, right? So if we have, I'm going to play an A, if we have A Ionian, also we can call that A major, but from a modal point of view, A Ionian. That has a feel to it, okay? And what it's doing is it's basically pointing us towards, without actually playing that chord, A major, it relates to that chord. So we're hearing a major sound, okay? If I played a minor scale, minor mode, then it would be projecting a different feel and a different sound, a different chord that it's going to relate to, okay? So that's kind of point one. So modes are sounds. Point two, and this is possibly the most important of the lot, is that it takes two things to make a mode. We've been looking at the notes that you're playing as a scale, which is probably going to become a solo or a lead line, but you need something to play that over. You know, chances are 99 times out of 100 you're not going to be playing that scale by itself. You know, in a real world environment, you're going to be playing it over a chord progression, and actually it's the chord progression that is going to steer you and is going to dictate to you what mode is appropriate for you to play and what mode is actually going to work. So again, here's an example. So I'm going to play just a simple chord. I've got a looper pedal, by the way, which is, if you've not got one, it's a really useful tool to have, because if you've not got a backing band, or you've not got you know, access to another way of playing stuff that you can play over, it's a really good way of doing it. And actually you can decide what you want to play over. You know, you can play whatever you want. So I'm going to play major, A major. Okay, so what I've got, hopefully you can hear that okay. So I've got an A major scale, which I've looped. Now, I know already it's an A major scale. A major is A Ionian, if we're talking from a modal point of view. So if I play, okay, that works perfectly well. If I were to say, do you know what, I really fancy playing some Phrygian. That doesn't work. It doesn't work at all. And the reason it doesn't work is because when I played A Ionian, I am playing notes that actually belong in that chord that I've played. So the notes from A major chord are part of the A Ionian, the A major scale. They're not, some of them are, the root is, but the other ones, minor second isn't, minor third isn't. So I'm effectively trying to play a minor sound over a major scale, which doesn't work. So what you need to do is be aware of the chord progression that you're playing over, and that will, as I said, in a way dictate the mode that is going to be most appropriate for you to play. Is it major, is it minor? You know, that's step one really, and that's going to split you into two camps, whether you're going to be playing Ionian or Lydian or Phrygian, Ionian, Lydian, mixed Lydian, or whether you're going to be playing minor, so Dorian, Phrygian, so on and so forth. So, sip of coffee. So now, just talking about the shapes that we've looked at, obviously we've named them. You know, we've got the Ionian shape, Dorian shape, and we've got a shape per mode. Now, that almost steers you into the direction of thinking, well, if I want to play Dorian, I've got to use the Dorian shape. That is not correct, okay? The reason that they are named in that way is because they will sound like the named mode, so the Dorian shape will sound like the Dorian mode. If you play from the first step, a scale, an octave up, and back down again, because what you are doing by playing in that way is creating a tonal centre around the A. You're making it sound like there's a root note of an A. Okay? If I were to play the same shape, but start on the second note, it sounds Phrygian now. And it sounds Phrygian because you're hearing everything starting from that note. So it sounds like that's the one, that's the root, that's the tonal centre. Okay? So it's the tonal centre rather than the shape that you play. So any shape can play any mode in any key. It all depends whereabouts on the fretboard you play it. Okay? And I will go into all these points in more details in other videos. What I wanted to do really in this video was just give some very quick information that's hopefully going to answer some pressing questions that have come up, like I said in these YouTube comments before. So any mode can play any shape. So what I've got now is a looped A. Okay, so I've got a tonal centre that is an A. And what I can do with that, I'm going to start in A. And if I play the A Ionian shape over an A, it's no surprise that it sounds like A major, okay, it's A Ionian. But, bearing in mind that all these 7 shapes fit together, if I play another shape from that family, from the diatonic family of A, we've got A Ionian, B Dorian, C Phrygian, and there's a Phrygian shape that sounds major because of the root that we're playing over. If I put that shape down to the A and then played the Phrygian shape, now it sounds Phrygian because of the root that we're playing over, because of the tonal centre. We can do this a different way. So this is why having a looper is so useful, because you can actually have something to relate to when you're playing. If you're just playing scales and you're just playing up and down scales all the time, it sounds like scales. You know, you've got nothing for those notes to relate to. If you've got a looper pedal, really good, don't cost a huge amount of money, you can pick one up for under £100. You can actually play something that you can then play against, you can relate to it, and it's not just one note. You can play vamps, you can play chord progressions and all sorts of stuff, and you can really, it starts to feel like music rather than you just playing a bunch of notes. So something a little different this time, different approach, same mechanism using the looper pedal. What I'm going to do is I'm going to loop an A, and I'm going to play the A Ionian shape. Sounds Ionian, right? Sounds major. Now, see what happens if I loop a B still play the A Ionian shape. Starting on A doesn't work anymore because we want the pull is to that note. That's ground level, okay? And that sounds completely different. How can that be? Because we're playing the Ionian shape. Well, the reason is because we're playing the Ionian shape, and that specific Ionian shape, not any Ionian shape, we're playing the A Ionian shape over a B. And what that is it's the same as playing B Dorian. So what we're saying, what the sound that we've got is B Dorian, okay? So a way that I thought about this earlier is if you think about Die Hard 2, going to let that one soak in a little bit. It's a slightly tenuous analogy perhaps, but you know when the bad guys are basically, there's a plane up in the air and the bad guys have got the control tower for the airport. If you've not seen Die Hard 2, it's really good, go and check it out. And what the bad guys do is they're basically talking to the aeroplane, but because they're bad guys, they recalibrate the ground level on the computer of the aeroplane so that it's lower, or is it higher? Anyway, the analogy still holds. They recalibrate the ground level so the plane thinks that it's lower than it actually is, and of course when it comes out of the clouds it crashes into the ground and everybody dies and it's all horrible because they're bad guys, right? And that's what bad guys do. Modes are kind of like that. Very tenuous analogy, because what you do by changing the tonal centre is effectively changing ground level. Because, which is exactly what I've just done, okay, going from an A and playing Ionian, A Ionian over there, to B. So if we think of A as the ground floor, first floor, second floor, third floor, fourth, fifth, sixth, 7. I know it doesn't work from the numbering point of view of the scale that we normally use, but it works for my Die Hard analogy, so stick with me. Okay, there's ground level. Everything that we hear above that is relating back to A as ground level. If we're bad guys, and suddenly what we do is recalibrate ground level, that note isn't ground floor anymore, that's the basement, right? Because it's underneath what we are now hearing as ground level. That's now ground level. And we can go further, you know, you can change all these things, but what I'm doing, these notes I'm not picking at random. These notes are from the scale that we're playing originally, they are from the diatonic scale. So now what we're hearing isn't A Ionian, it's not B Dorian, it's C Phrygian. And all with the same shape, all playing the A Ionian shape. And it's because we've changed the note. So it's not just the shape, it's the notes that you play underneath it as well, okay? And what I will do, like I said, I didn't want to go into too much detail in this video, but what I'll do on another video is I'll start talking about how you can actually go about building these chord progressions yourself, because it all relates together, okay? These chords that we're playing are built from the notes of a scale, and all we're trying to do is match up the notes that we're playing with the chord that we're playing over. I mean, sometimes we might want to play against that a little bit, but broadly speaking, that's what we're trying to do. So that was possibly a slightly longer video than I was initially planning, but I hope it's answered some of the questions that you guys have had. And hope it's shed a little bit more light on modes, modal theory and all that sort of stuff. Modes are a strange thing in that initially, you know, it sounds like you're talking a different language when you start talking Dorian, Lydian and all this sort of stuff. But it all relates back to the major scale. It's all about building stuff from the notes that you get on a major scale. So again, I hope that's been useful. If you have further questions, please stick them in the comments below. And if this sort of format is useful, if people like asking questions and then me responding via video, then that's a way that I'll go in the future. And I will, more than happy to answer questions and build lessons around what you guys want to hear, really, because I'm just a bloke sat in a room with my guitar talking to a video camera, and you guys are kind enough to take your time and watch that. So if there's anything that I can help you out with, just drop a comment in the comment section below, and I'll see about doing, if there's enough people interested in the same thing, I'll see about doing a video on that in the future. So anyway, I've been Matt Gear, this has been Matt Gear TV. Thanks for your time, guys, and I will speak to you very soon. Okay, cheers, bye now.